My name's Steve Spaz Williams. I'm an animator. I was always interested in how things worked. I was always interested in, obviously engineering. There was a company in Toronto, where I'm from, that formed called Alias Research, and they were a three-dimensional computer graphics company. So when I got out of the military, I ended up joining Alias and learning three-dimensional computer animation, right? And so I had brought cartooning and animation into that. So that's where it started in about 1985. And I sort of had a premise because of understanding computer graphics that doing simulations of natural occurrences in nature was possible, And the ultimate goal, of course, was to create synthetic humans and synthetic stunt doubles. So when I joined ILM, they brought me in. It was a very small company at the time. There was 30 people in the whole company. When I left in '98, there was 1,500. And so when I joined, I was brought in specifically to work on this project, The Abyss, and there was very few people that knew how to run this type of software at that time, being called Alias. After the pseudopod, if you just want to start there, you can start all the way back, going to Gertie the Dinosaur in 1923 with Winsor McKay, which is the first, line-drawn animation, but, there's been a lot of progression, obviously, all the way through. The one thing that got lost, I think, is the development of characters, like Bugs Bunny. Everyone liked Bugs Bunny, or Mickey Mouse, or Donald Duck, or any of the characters that people liked. They would stick those characters in any scenario, whether it was in the past or the present, or Mars, it didn't matter. And people, if they liked the character, they would believe the scenario they're in. In approximately 1990, Cameron had come to us, again with another problem that no one else could solve. We had already done a pseudopod for The Abyss. And he said, well, I have a thing called the T-1000, which is a chrome guy. So that's cool. And, the idea there, it was a chrome guy, and he called it, what he termed it as polymimetic alloy. Imagine unwrapping a shirt and stitching it together, and as it moved, it had to have what they called C2 continuity. Well, Jurassic Park was supposed to be a big stop motion movie. I had built a set of bones. Then I started building the skin. We got the actual body from Stan Winston, sawed it up into bits and scanned it with a cyborg scanner. It was all clandestine. And I built it and produced the first walking test that went to the head of Universal. And he saw it, and then Spielberg saw it. And everyone, including Phil Tippett, had a heart attack. And Spielberg said, no more stop motion, no more go motion, the whole thing is going to be computer graphics. That's where the deal changed. That's when the Jackals came out. In 97, Clint Goldman, Mark DePay, and I had left ILM because we were offered a film by New Line. They said, we had done the mask, I had done the mask, and it was such a sort of a surprise hit that New Line said, anytime you guys want to do a film, just come to us. So we had met Todd McFarlane, and Todd came and said, I have, the comic book Spawn, and I want to make a movie. So we went to New Line with it, and they said, sure, let's do it. So we did, and we hired ILM, and ILM, we were the clients this time. So we had like 22 visual effects companies. It was very difficult. There was a lot of night shoots. I think that Pixar, DreamWorks, Sony, who are the other animation studios, have animation styles, right? I think there's room for another style, right? I love the old 40s style of Max Fleischer animation, right? And John K. and I, man, this is what we're going to try and do, right? We think that we can introduce another form of animation, and that's Fleischer style, with a twisted form of animation. The advice for kids that want to get into animation, the one thing I found that unfortunately what computers do to you when you get involved in this industry is that they tend to destroy your ability to draw. Companies like Pixar have never forgotten that. Pixar still titles its company Pixar Animation. It just so happens they use computers, right? So the most important thing for kids to remember is that they have to remember how to draw, observe things, learn how to take engines apart. I know it sounds crazy. Engines apart, learn how to work with wood, a hammer. 25 years ago, there wasn't really a lot of animation schools around, right? And but in the U.S. and Canada, right, there are tons of animation schools around. The premier schools right now are CalArts, Ringling Brothers, Academy of Art in San Francisco, Sheridan College outside of Toronto, and then they're specific to what they call classical animation, which is hand-drawn animation on Oxbury registration, just like the Masters used to do with Warner Brothers and Disney. And then there's more specific digital animation schools where they deal with specifically computer graphics. But I always advise, that these kids, if they can draw, they can get into computer graphics.